If someone told you 10 years ago that a small company wanted to launch twice a week and recover their boosters, you would probably think they were crazy. But here we are, 10 years later, and SpaceX has launched almost 100 times in the past year, and they are reusing rockets like cars. They have dominated the space industry for the past decade, and they have been ahead of everyone else for a long time. But how long will they be able to maintain this pace? Is someone else going to catch up to them? For now, it doesn't look like it. They are just launching almost every other day and making boring what everyone thought was impossible a few years ago. They have changed not only the launch industry, but also the satellite business with Starlink, and they don't seem to have any rival anywhere close. Everyone else is just aiming too small, or not good enough to even compete, and SpaceX has built a business that doesn't depend on launching things into space anymore. They make more money by selling internet directly to customers. But history tells us that nothing lasts forever. So, will they be the exception? Or is there someone else that could challenge them? Let's see it. When you think about SpaceX, what comes to your mind? Incredible engineering, eccentric leadership, unrealistic ambitions, making them possible only late, or all of these at the same time? In any case, what they have accomplished is amazing. They are launching 4 times more mass to orbit than the rest of the world combined. They have the biggest satellite constellation in history, and after more than 8 years, they are still the only ones reusing their rockets. No one is even close to them when it comes to the space business, and there are almost no more records for them to break. They have more successful landings than most companies have launches. But how long is this honeymoon going to last? Some companies are starting to make important progress, and eventually other people will start recovering boosters and copying SpaceX's success. How far are they? ULA just launched the Vulcan rocket, which should be a competitor to the Falcon 9, at least for some government launches. And when finally Blue Origin launches the New Glenn, they will also be a good challenger. And we cannot forget about the Chinese, which are the only ones that are working at a similar pace than SpaceX and that have plans to build similar rockets. But let's be honest, all these new rockets will be at best a good competitor to the Falcon 9, a rocket that debuted 12 years ago, so by the time they are fully operational, they will be obsolete next to the new Starship. No current or planned rocket will be able to compete with a fully reusable vehicle, capable of sending 100 tons into orbit for just a few millions. It will be like dying at the beach, seeing how they finally catch up to the Falcon Beast just to be demolished by the new Starship monster. But the success of SpaceX is not only in their rockets, it's also in their satellites. Starlink may have bad press, as it interferes with astronomical measurements and increases by a lot the number of satellites into orbit, but it also provides a critical resource to every part of the world, as it is very easy to criticize it when you have a good internet connection at home, but half of the world does not have this privilege, and it's becoming more and more important each day it passes. So apart from Kessler syndrome alarmists or amateur astronomers, Starlink provides an important service to everyone, and it also provides a lot of money to SpaceX. Currently it has more than 2 million users, but it could easily increase that by 10 or 20 times during the next decade. And if you look to the cost and revenue that it generates, it is clear that SpaceX has found the gold mine that they need to finance all their Mars ambitions. And if you combine it with the decreasing cost of the Falcon 9 and the inability from other space companies to replicate this success, SpaceX will have a good amount of profits for a long time, until the rest of the sector can catch up to them. And that's only the beginning. SpaceX is improving their satellite and their rockets, so by the time Amazon or others are able to replicate this, it will be too late again. In the same way as with the Falcon rockets, once the rest of satellite internet providers can replicate Starlink, it will have evolved to the next version that will be launched with Starship, which will be even cheaper and more capable. Just look at the numbers. The current Starlink with the Falcon 9 is already an impressive profit generator. With the next version and Starship, the numbers won't even make sense. All other competitors will be late again, trying to catch up to a company that never gets tired of innovating and that always seems to be 2 steps ahead of everyone else. In this race, the hare is not only not stopping to rest, but running faster and faster than all other competitors. So even if the Chinese manage to replicate the Falcon 9, and even if ULA, Blue Origin, Rocket Lab and all other companies accomplish their goals, and even if Arianespace stops making a fool of themselves and go back to building good rockets, they will still be far away from SpaceX. Then, what would need to happen for SpaceX to lose its position? Who could challenge their dominance? I think that you already know where this goes. If it's not possible for the rest to win this race, the only option is that SpaceX loses by themselves. I know it sounds silly right now, but no company dominates forever, and we've seen many times in the past how the leaders ended up burning to the ground their empires. We've seen Nokia and Kodak lose almost all their value, and the same happens to every company that stops innovating and pushing their business forward. But surely SpaceX won't be like this, right? We spent the past 5 minutes explaining how are they the hare that doesn't stop to rest and that never gets too comfortable in its position. They are thinking in decades, not years, and they want to accomplish one of the biggest milestones any human could dream of, making life multiplanetary. So, what would need to happen for them to lose their focus and to stop doing what they do best? There are several options, most of them with easy solutions, and that would only make them move a bit slower. But there is also a possibility that something happens that completely obliterates their top position. For starters, they could get in trouble with NASA or the government. Elon could talk too much and make someone angry. And then they decide that they don't want to work anymore with SpaceX. For now, this is off the table, as SpaceX are the only ones capable of sending astronauts to the ISS from the US. But once the Starliner is operational, and once Vulcan and New Glenn can launch the defense satellites, they could ditch SpaceX if they wanted. It would be a strange and expensive move, but the government doesn't care about the money they spend, and they have done stranger things in the past, so I wouldn't be surprised if something like this eventually happens. Okay, they could lose government money, but this would not be that important. By the time this could happen, SpaceX would be earning billions each year with Starlink, so this would not impact them that much. Another option would be that they struggle to get more employees as time passes. Tesla and SpaceX have a reputation of demanding a lot from their people, and this could end up making it more difficult to hire new workers. For now, I wouldn't worry, as both companies are the most demanded by engineering students, but who knows how the future will look like. What is sure is that if SpaceX wants to keep growing as they have, they will need to compensate accordingly their employees, but not too much, or they will get extremely rich and probably they want to do other things, like it's happening at Nvidia. They could also have a big accident or issue, but considering the speed at which they operate and how they solve problems, I don't think it would be that important. And another option is that Elon could lose interest in the company, as he focuses on Tesla, AI, Twitter or building the next big thing, but I think we can all agree that going to Mars is his most important ambition, and I wouldn't bet that he will get tired of it. Then what? Well, the only thing that could make SpaceX lose its dominance is precisely this, the obsession with Mars and with making life multiplanetary. I know it sounds odd, so let me explain. This dream of Mars and having a backup for Earth is what caused SpaceX to exist in the first place. Elon wanted to increase the interest in space by sending a greenhouse to Mars, and when the Russians didn't want to sell their rockets at a good price, he decided to start his own rocket company. The rest is history. In the next 2 decades they built what is now the biggest space company, and they're doing things that everyone thought were impossible. But this could also be their downfall. Until now, there has been no issues between their ultimate goal of colonizing Mars and their imminent goals to send satellites into space. First, you need a small rocket, then a bigger rocket, then a capsule for cargo, for humans, and finally a fully and rapidly reusable rocket. But once the Starship is ready, they will have all important things to start building a base on Mars. Of course there will be a lot more things to do, but the most important tools will be ready. And that is the issue. If Elon wants, they could focus only on Mars. They could spend all of Starlink's revenue on building a base and sending people and cargo, but as humans we are not ready yet to do this. There is no real incentive to go all in on Mars right now. We can wait for a couple of decades without any issue. We need to start by sending more rovers, more probes to all the solar system, by building space station in low Earth orbit and on the moon, by starting a space economy that creates the incentive to go to Mars in a few years. There is no rush to go there. We need to start with the moon, with bigger telescopes and with bigger stations, and Starship is capable of all of that. It will revolutionize the space industry in a way that we cannot imagine. But if SpaceX focuses only on Mars, someone else will copy Starship and use it for all other things it can do. That's what could make SpaceX lose its dominance and what could crown a new king of space. Starship will allow us to do incredible things in space, and we cannot use it only for one. We need to extract the maximum of it, and someone else will do it if SpaceX is doing other things. I honestly don't think this will happen, as there are a lot of smart people at SpaceX that understand how this works, but I also think that they could lose their position if they focus too much on a dream that may be too early to accomplish by now. Starship can and will revolutionize the space business, and if they don't use it at its full potential, someone else will do it. Let's hope that this doesn't happen and that SpaceX keeps working as always, as we need this kind of innovation and technologies, and I don't think there is anyone else capable of doing it right now. But what do you think? Is there any option for them to lose, or will they dominate forever? As always, take care and learn more.